thing goes live. There it is. I do have to start this thing off with a little bit of a, oh man, that's another thing that COVID did to us. But it would have been during this lesson, per se, that we would have had an opportunity during a regular school year to actually go down to the auxiliary gym if it were open or something like that on a day that I got like permission to use it and actually like shoot some 3-pointers. But unfortunately, these are the circumstances in which we are living in. You guys know like all the schools around us are all shut down for virtual? Almost all of them around us. Ridiculous. But that's what we're living in. I'll save my opinion for myself. Here's today. Number one, I do have a video talking about the double-edged sword that the 3-point shot actually is. I have some calculations that I would like to do in regards to a basketball and the size of a standard NBA hoop. And the following question. Yes, clearly a basketball can fit inside of an NBA hoop. And if I asked you just very bluntly, hey, could 2 standard NBA basketballs fit inside of a hoop? Typically, what would people say? Yeah, typically you'd say no. If like you tried to shoot both at the same time, they wouldn't fit. But today, we are going to mathematically prove that and actually see how close how close the margin of error is for 2 basketballs to be able to go through an NBA hoop, because it is closer than you think. Now, to wrap that up, shut your faces. No, you're not. Anyway, whenever high school students apologize to me, they're never actually sorry. Are you? Yeah. So, finally, to wrap up today, on Thursday was a fun day. I didn't get to see you. I had to assign something, and I know a bunch of you asked if I was going live, but they said, no, you're not teaching new information. Fine, I won't teach new information, but I'm going to assign what I wanted to assign, and that was the final part of the fantasy football project. Now, with the time that we have remaining in class after the video, after the calculation, I do want to give you that little bit of time, or whatever time you have, to kind of begin, if you haven't begun, working on that fantasy football project, which I actually did see. Someone did turn it in. I wasn't going to point anybody out. But, okay. Which one was mine? No, I said which one? Okay. But I want to give you the opportunity to kind of like be able to electronically converse, because obviously Google Docs, stuff like that, with your teammate, if you have one, and to get that thing moving, because when's that due? Yeah. And I assigned it last Thursday. So, let's see. First thing I want to start with, though, is that video about the 3-point shot. So let me bring this thing up. Right here. There it is. And I would like you to pay attention to what this thing has to say. Shut your faces.
I'm John, and this is Alex, and this is the cold open of Dorktown. But wait, there's more. Today is the Houston Rockets episode of Dorktown. This is one that had been on your plate for a while, right?
For quite a long time. High hopes for it.
Yeah, and in the middle of it, the Rockets went and did something. But first, let's talk about their 3-point shooting.
Oh, just for reference, they released this video. In the end or the middle to end of June of 2018. So it was literally just a couple weeks after or a week after the NBA Finals.
Here's a basketball court. Here's the 3-point line. They kind of drew it weird, didn't they? Out here, it's 23 feet and 9 inches from the basket. But over here in the corners, it's only 22 feet, almost a full 2 feet shorter, which actually probably coincidentally makes a lot of sense. If you shoot from the side, you don't have the backboard to aim at, so the slightly shorter distance is kind of a consolation prize. Anyway, here's how often the Rockets shot from each distance during the 2017-2018 season. They shoot threes, and then they shoot from way up close, and that is almost all they ever do. If you tried to hike this, they'd have to send a helicopter to come and get you. This is really only an acceleration of what the NBA is more or less doing these days. I dug up some data from a chart party I did a couple years ago that showed shot distance data from across the league. Generally, it looks the same, but while the rest of the league allows itself to try some long two-pointers, the Rockets completely refuse to do that. Look at their threes. Distance clearly doesn't bother them at all. While it's possible to take a three from as short as 22 feet away, Houston's favorite shot is from 25 to 26 feet. They even like the unreasonably long threes. Look at this craziness. The Rockets attempted 215 shots from 28 to 29 feet away. That's way, way out there. Meanwhile, they only attempted 210 shots from the 4 to 5 foot distance. They would rather shoot from way out there than way up here. That is awesome. Alex, as long as we're on the subject, I once hit a shot from 8 feet away.
I got you. I hit a free throw before. In the 2017-2018 season, the Rockets became the first team to ever take more shots from three-point land than two-point land. There's a decent chance you already knew that, but what you may not know is how much deeper than that it really goes. As recently as January 19th, 2014, there had been only 7 games in NBA history in which a team took more threes than twos.
Now, I just want you to think about that for a second. There have only been up from before the Rockets era, before 2013, only 7 games in NBA history had a team attempted more three-pointers than two-pointers.
Did they win? When Mike D'Antoni joined Houston in June 2016, that number was at 27. Even if you disregard the league's 15-year feeling out period of the three-point line, that's 27 out of a possible 51,726 games, which is about 1/20th of 1% of the time. The Rockets in D'Antoni's first 2 seasons did so in 62 out of a possible 164 games, which is about 37.8% of the time.
This list is every game that the Rockets shot more threes or attempted more threes than twos.
If we just isolate that time frame for an apples-to-apples era comparison, we see that every other NBA team combined for 36 such games. The Rockets nearly doubled the rest of the NBA. But this is my favorite. None of these teams have had a single game in their entire history taking more threes than twos. The Rockets did 8 times in December 2017 what 13 teams have combined to do 0 times ever.
I'm going to do the rest of the episode from 22 feet away. You know why? Because I have Rockets fever.
Of course, they weren't just good at taking long-range shots. They were pretty good at making them too, at least before the 2018 Western Conference Finals rolled around. But we'll get there in a sec. So in each of D'Antoni's first 2 seasons, the Rockets hit 15-plus trays in at least half their games. No one else has even done so in even a third of their games. Back to using a single calendar month to compare them to everyone else. In November 2017, the Rockets nailed at least 15 threes in a dozen games. 16 teams, literally the majority of the NBA, have never had an entire season with that many games knocking down at least 15 threes. But just as stunning is the incredible streak they put together throughout most of the 2017-2018 season. Starting October 25th, the Rockets drained double-digit threes in every single game through February 25th. A 55-game streak that's pretty impressive when you consider that no one else has ever had one last even half as long. That's what happens when you got an unprecedented supply of shooting spearheaded by the first pair of teammates in 27 years to each average at least 7 assists a night.
So, Alex, the sad part of the episode is finally here.
The basketball gods did not always smile down upon Houston, apparently.
When we started this episode, this was supposed to be a happy, cool episode like the rest of them. Alex, did you see this coming when you decided this is what we were going to do?
Not in a million years.
Well, let's get to it. In the 7-game 2018 Western Conference Finals, the Rockets attempted 277 three-pointers. The regular season three-point percentage was .362. At that rate, 277 attempts would result in exactly 100 threes. Through the first 4 games, Houston was just about keeping pace with this projection. In Game 5, they came just a tiny bit loose, but there was no cause for alarm. After all, it was a game they'd won. Neither was Game 6 a huge concern in the three-point department. If this is your team, and if God loves you, you probably end here. You've shot 344 from beyond the arc so far this series, which, with this quantity of attempts, would give you 95 three-pointers for the series. In Game 7, the Rockets are well on their way there. And then, halfway through the second quarter, it just stops. Doesn't hit a snag, it doesn't trail off, it just completely flatlines. It's dead. The Rockets missed 27 consecutive threes, a stat that will be parroted throughout the entire offseason and until the end of time. It's just that unbelievable. There's no explanation. That season, the Rockets had committed to the three like no other team in NBA history. It carried them to the best regular season record in the NBA, to the Western Conference Finals, and to Game 7, the most important game they had played in 23 years. That these Rockets would miss 27 straight at any point in the season seems wildly improbable. For it to happen now is one of the cruelest fates I can possibly imagine. Here we see the data a little different.
Grammarly does more than catch errors. With Grammarly, you can find...
This is a second-by-second timeline of the Rockets' net three-pointers throughout the series. That it trends downward is not an issue because, of course, you're going to miss more threes than you make. But this is almost frightening to look at. Throughout literally half the game, the Rockets' three-point ability was an uninterrupted free fall. Take in this silent horror. Despite missing, they just kept trying at the same aggressive pace they always did. But then, once they finally hit one, they stopped trying. This at a time when they needed threes the most. Why were they three happy when they kept missing and three averse the second they made one? It's as though they were trying to exercise a demon and nothing more. The Rockets lost their most important game in decades by 9 points. If just 4 of those 27 misses had found their way in, it's 12 points right there. I'm not even a Rockets fan, and after reflecting on that, I want to go directly to bed. It's only 5:30. Still want to go to bed. Alex, can you end us with something happy?
I'll do my best. I do want to focus for just a sec on James Harden. During his time in Houston, he's been perhaps the most efficient volume scorer of all time, especially when it comes to fellow guards. If you look at just backcourt players who carried a significant scoring burden by taking at least 15 shots a game, Harden's efficiency is through the roof. There have been 8 instances of a guard carrying that big a load and still averaging at least 1.5 points per shot. Reggie Miller did it once. Kevin Martin did it once. Steph Curry did it once. And then James Harden has done it 5 times. Plus, his seasons have a leg up on the others since he never missed over 30 games, and he always comfortably cleared that minimum shot qualifier. Now let's focus for a minute on Harden just under D'Antoni. Across their first 2 seasons together, Harden averaged nearly 30 points and 10 assists a game, with an effective field goal percentage north of 53. I like effective field goal percentage much better than regular field goal percentage because it gives you 1.5 times as much credit for making a 3 as opposed to a 2. And since 3 is 2 times 1.5, the math checks out, don't worry. Anyway, no other player has had a 2-year stretch maintaining averages that high, and virtually no one's even all that close. Chop each of those marks down to 25, 8, and 50. That's a significant reduction across the board that still only one man, LeBron James, has ever reached across back-to-back seasons. Not a bad buffer to have separating you from everyone else.
Aha. Get rid of that. There we go. Now, I feel like, and this is just my opinion, but I feel like as much as like people are like, oh, James Harden is one of the greatest players in the NBA today, I feel like he's not as appreciated as much. Any of you guys feel that way? Okay. I'm just saying, I feel like he's one of the best, but I just feel like he's underappreciated because he hasn't like made it that far. I don't know. How old is he? I gotta look this up now. Now it's bugging me. He's not that old, right? He's only been playing for like 10 years. You sure? You're just guessing. He's 31. He's 31. He's still got a lot of years left. I don't know. I also appreciate the beard. Anyway, what I need from you to answer that original question about basketballs fitting inside the hoop. If you do not already have them out, I'm going to need those notebooks out and open. I don't need that. I think I saved it here. File. There we go.
Well, just don't take it from me like you're my dad or something. Yeah, I did both. Yeah, I did. Yeah. You want to read it? Do you have an idea again?
Okay. Okay. So for reference sake, if you can't read some of the formulas that I'm going to be putting up here, because I do have a printout for this that I put into the Google Classroom stream. And that printout, especially for those who are watching live right now from home, this is basically what we're going to be trying to accomplish today, answering these questions. And the formulas on the back right here, these are your basic geometry formulas, not to mention geometry and to send a shiver down your spine. But all those formulas are available to you. Yeah, so they're all right there. But here's the question. Can two basketballs fit into the rim at the same time? Now, the initial answer that most people would give is, well, no, it doesn't. I know, I don't think that. No, they can't. No. Typical basketball? No. Well, I'm going to write down some information right here into my notes. Flip this over. Here we go. Let's see. First of all, today is the 21st. I'm going to call this basketball volume. Boom. And let's see. So it says the standard size of a basketball used in the NBA, standard size, has a circumference of 29.5 inches. Obviously, circumference different than, similar for a circle or whatnot, but obviously we're talking about a three-dimensional object here. And the diameter of a rim, basketball rim, is 18 inches. Now, obviously, if we're dealing with the diameter of the rim, versus the actual radius of the ball, we have to do some calculations here. Now, just for the sake of argument, and again, I don't mean to give you that PTSD of thinking about geometry, because once I say that word, you get shivers down your spine. How does one calculate circumference? It's not diameter squared. Oh, no. Do you not remember? Again, I didn't teach you geometry. I taught none of y'all geometry because I haven't taught geometry in 12 years. Something pi? I got you. Oh. I'm sorry. 2 pi r. 2 pi r. Or pi times diameter. That's another way of doing it. Because if you just double the radius, you get diameter. Now, again, with geometry, I'm not to rag on geometry. I know that when I took geometry in high school, it was not my favorite subject whatsoever at all. It just kind of irked me to all whatever. But looking back on it, I know that a lot of the problem-solving skills are very valid in what they do and why we need to learn these kinds of things. But circumference is actually something that can apply to whether it be a three-dimensional object or a two-dimensional object. Talking about a basketball, the basketball circumference is 29.5. And I'm going to solve this and get the radius of the basketball. Now, mind you, we're talking about a standardized basketball, one that is legal for the NBA. When you use basketballs in the NBA, they do, require them to have a certain pounds per square inch pressure on the inside when they fill the thing with air. So we're not just talking about one that's been sitting in the garage for a while. To solve this thing now, I'm going to show you. Oh, come on. Sorry, McTaggart just made a face at me because he beat me in our consolation playoffs. Any of y'all have McTaggart later today? You had him earlier? Not later today, though? All right, cool. Then I can't send him a message. Anyway, so if I'm going to solve this, zooming in, zooming in, zooming in, zooming in, zooming in. I'm going to solve this in the most accurate way possible. Do y'all remember how to get the symbol for pi on your calculator? I know it's like 3.14, but I want to be more accurate. There is. Where do you get it? Right there. There's a little caret symbol. It's that second caret symbol. Just so you know, because I'd like to be more accurate than anything else. Now, I'm going to write this down on the paper in a moment, but notice again that I'm putting that pi in parentheses. Notice that I'm putting pi in parentheses because I want to be able to solve for that radius right there. Of course, I could have just gone for diameter, but I'm just going to do this. Chapow! 4.695. That's what I'm actually going to write down. So if I were to solve this and divide by 2 pi, notice again I'm putting the 2 pi in parentheses. Then I would get a radius of 4.695 inches. I want you to see how close this actually is. The question is, can 2 basketballs fit through the hoop at the same time? How many radiuses of a basketball do I need to answer that question? Or how many radii do I need in order to answer that question? Not 2. Say again? 4. I need 4. 2 radii or radius would give me 1 basketball. And if I'm dealing with 2 basketballs fitting through a hoop at the same time, I'm going to need 4 of them. Let me draw a little image here. Was it the bottom of the page that you couldn't see? I know, these things are terrible. The whole thing? I apologize. Let me bring this back here then. Yeah. Let me draw a little picture on the board. Let me move this over and I'll draw a little picture on the board. All right, I'll leave it there for a moment though, just for anybody else, but I'll draw a little picture on the board. I know, these things are horrendous. So if I'm going to draw something like that, it's like, okay, there's 1 basketball. Have you ever like drawn like that 3-dimensional object on paper? Something like that? That one's terrible. Something like that. Like 2 eyeballs now. But there's a radius right there. And the general idea is that, well, you're going to need 1, 2 for one of them, and then 1, 2 for the other. That was a terrible radius draw. Whatever. I can't draw 3-dimensional objects other than like cubes or some junk like that. I don't have that shading down. In art class, do you guys learn how to like shade and draw 3-dimensional objects? Yeah, I've never learned how to do it. All right. But you do need 4 of them to do this. So in this case, 4 radius will equal 2 balls. So in this case, 4 times 4.695, 4 times 4.695 would give me exactly 18.78 inches. Remind me, what is the diameter? I wrote this down earlier. What is the diameter of the basketball rim? 18. Think about that for a second. 18.78, clearly greater than 18. These are 2 basketballs. And this is the NBA rim. I'll put 0, 0 here. Now, I don't know how you visualized an NBA rim versus the size of a basketball. But if you have two basketballs going in side by side, the only reason they cannot fit is because of less than an inch of overlap. Think about that for a second. Think about that for a second. 0.78 inches is the difference of the two basketballs not fitting. 0.78 inches is the difference of the two basketballs not fitting. Now, I cannot imagine. It is actually that stinking close, if you can imagine. Now, I don't know when they standardized the size of the rim and all that stuff. Do you guys know the story behind James Naismith and the reason or how he came up with basketball in the first place? He was a doctor of some sort, but he didn't have like basketball rims. Do you know what he used? Kind of peach baskets. Yeah, peach baskets. Knocked out the bottom of the peach basket. But like a peach basket, like you don't standardize a peach basket per se, you know? Find two identical ones. I once played this game at a summer camp. It's like a version of basketball. It's like they called it like garbage can basketball, but it was like basically you had your team and you were trying to get the basketball into the hoop on the other end and vice versa. But the basket, the rim, was not on a wall like a regular basketball court. The basket was actually a trash can that a teammate was holding while standing on a chair. Imagine that for a minute. My teammate is on the other end of the room, standing on a chair, holding a garbage can. And the idea is that, well, they can move it if they need be, but that's how the garbage can basketball thing was played. I remember we played that one year, and while running and trying to shoot and land at the same time, I severely sprained my ankle and had to go to the hospital. Yeah. No. Just imagine this for a minute, right? Imagine this for a minute. Going up for the shot. So I'm in transition. I'm moving. I go up for the shot. I decide in that moment, I'm going to pass it to my teammate who's running alongside me, right? So I go to turn midair to pass it to my teammate, but then my body keeps going in this direction. That's how it happened. That was fun. Oh, after that story? No. Hold on. Now, they actually do change the standards for the WNBA, if you can imagine. For the WNBA, here you go. For the WNBA, their basketball rim, not rim, I'm sorry. What am I even talking about? Their basketball is 28.5 inches in circumference. The WNBA basketball is 28.5 inches in circumference. So now that is a full inch smaller in circumference. So now I ask you the following question. Can two WNBA basketballs make it through a standard NBA hoop at the same time? You're saying, yeah, well, let's find out. It's the same exact calculation. Circumference is equal to 2 pi r. So now our circumference for the basketballs is 28.5 equals 2 pi r. I'm going to do the calculation right here. Same exact calculation, except it's now 28.5. The radius of a WNBA basketball is 4.536 inches. You know how long the WNBA has been around? Take a wild guess. How many years? 4. 16 is a better guess. Answer is 24. They've been around for 24 years, the WNBA. I have to be completely honest. No offense to the WNBA. I have never sat down and watched a game. I don't know. I don't know how they're still a league right now, actually. Yeah, anyway. Are the Chargers still in LA? Okay, because they moved from San Diego, right? LA just does not want a football team. Anyway, back to this. I know. They used to have the Rams, and then they lost the Rams, and then they got the Rams back. I know. Anyway, this times 4 would give you 18.14 inches. So, question. Can 2 WNBA basketballs make it through an NBA rim at the same time? They can't. What is the diameter of the NBA rim? 18. And this is more, which is greater than 18. Nope. Can't do it. Cannot do it. Now, what's eventually going to end up happening with these formulas is in the future, I may be throwing at you a question in which you would have to determine what formula would be needed in order to answer said question. Now, again, these basic geometric formulas, which again, I included the PDF of this paper. I included the PDF of this paper in the Google Classroom stream today. You would be allowed to use such a thing. I would have a formula sheet for you because I'm not expecting you to memorize a bunch of formulas. I would want you to know how to use them. So, you guys okay back there? I don't think you are. It's like a lot of giggling. I don't know. It's unnerving. It's like one of those like plush animals that like plush stuffed animals that make noises in the middle of the night when you accidentally step on them. Really? Yes? All right, let him in. And I'll write this out for you. So with the time that we have, what I would like you to do, no, not a chance. You have a major assessment due on Wednesday. That's the end of the final the fantasy football project. What I would like you to do is I would like you to continue working for the remaining, technically 23 minutes that we have. And that's a good amount of time to get moving on whatever you did not do beginning last Thursday when you were supposed to be working on this. I noticed how it got all quiet there. But I would like you to get moving on this. So take the remaining time that we have and let's knock out a huge chunk of what you need to do when he gets back. Now, for those of you that are online, because I do see that there are a few online right now, if you do have questions for me, you can either email me or throw them into the chat, and I will be checking that to answer said questions. Oh, are you reading this for the first time?
No, I'm just reflecting on it because now I'm like, probably not smart to do this today.
Well, keep in mind you do have, most of you have a partner to do this with.
I know.
I did say most of you. I did not say all of you. Wow. You guys are so petty with each other. Wow, and he uses bad words too. I don't think he knows I can hear him.
You know, I know you know what? Ever hear from Jared and all right.
It seems you guys are really using this time effectively.
Oh, no, everyone will get it done. How much was that?
I'm sorry, everyone?
You think everyone? Yeah, I think
Everyone?
I believe in
No. Mind you. I'm giving you a hard time because I know you've already turned it in. You know what I'm saying?
I believe in my class.
No. I know. I'm just saying I'm giving you a hard time because I know you've already turned it in. You've already done it. You've done exactly what you needed to do. That's why I can have this conversation with you.
I really do. It wasn't that. I literally did it in an hour and 10 minutes. But I was watching football. I was in the zone.
Oh, no pun intended. Well, here's the thing. If because obviously you remember the first two parts that I had you guys do. Those first two parts greatly inform what you end up typing. You know, and that's why I had that spread out over a couple weeks.
Exactly. It doesn't matter. I don't write like that. This is the best conversation ever. I'm getting picked on for doing my project. Yeah, you are. Oh, you wrote it. Everyone faces that you did it. Oh, I did it. Oh, I did it. Oh, I did it.
Well, the thing was, when I said that someone had turned it in, I wasn't gonna name him by name, but he called himself out.
I wanted everyone. Tell everyone. Yo, DeSantis. Deontay Johnson, AJ Green tonight. If they score 31, I would lose them out of the league. You think so?
Johnson. Who are they playing?
It's against each other. Cincinnati, Pittsburgh.
Oh, Pittsburgh.
I want Pittsburgh to clamp AJ Green. I want Deontay Johnson. Is 12.
Bengals are no
I
good.
want him to drop another like 8 tonight.
Is the QB still injured?
Who?
The QB for the Bengals? Yeah, Joe Burrow.
He's ACL and MCL.
He's done. Yeah, Bengals are going down.
I hope he does.
He was. He made the NFC North the best division in football. Yeah.
Because those Ravens are looking scary now.
Yes, they are. But keep in mind, we did play the Jaguars.
Yeah, but still, that's a good game. Like, get your offense in the
I know.
December.
Yeah. It was the one year that the Giants beat the Patriots. They rounded off like 11 straight wins to finish the season, including the playoffs, just because they were on a hot streak. You know, insane. But the Steelers, what they lost 2 in a row.
Exactly. That's big.
Yeah. The Browns are the Browns are 9-5.
No,
10-4. 10-4. Because there's 2 games left.
No, yeah, 10-5. 10-5.
Okay.
No,
Right? That's what I mean.
Hold on.
The 5 week and then they have
Look it up.
Yeah, so 10-4. He's right.
every team plays 16 games.
Yeah. I thought about it. I was like,
Yeah, there it is. 11-2, 10-4, 9-5.
that's a great thing.
Yeah.
And since the Ravens, Steelers, Bengals, and the Browns,
Let me look at the playoff picture.
and the Bengals, I say would have won like 2 or 3 more games if Burrow was still playing.
Possibly.
Depends on how they-
Yeah, right now the Ravens are outside of the playoff bubble. Oh, you can't see it. My bad.
Oh, because the Dolphins.
Yeah.
The Dolphins have a pretty tough 2 weeks though. I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, they played the Bills last week and then they play the Raiders next week.
So you're gonna have, at a minimum, you're gonna have a 9-win team not make the playoffs. Most likely, you're gonna have a 10-win team not make the playoffs.
Yeah, that's insane.
It's happened one time in NFL history. An 11-win team didn't make the
I'm
playoffs.
glad the Patriots are doing this bad this year.
Yeah.
So, because I'm telling you, we're gonna draft either Zach Wilson or Trey Lance, everyone's talking about Fields and Lawrence, and we're gonna be good again.
Oh, they've been eliminated already. The Patriots.
What's up?
They've been eliminated.
Yeah, he was. We're
Sucks.
Someone get the door.
Yeah, Carson Wentz is over.
All right.
I don't care about Carson. I knew Carson Wentz wasn't competitive. I take Carson Wentz on the pass.
There you go.
I want Zach Wilson as well.
Where is it?
What are you doing?
I don't know. I don't watch college football like that, to be honest. I'm just into like the draft. Yo, Devontae, but I know Devontae Smith or whatever. I don't know. That's crazy.
Mark, do you watch college football?
No.
Yeah, it's about to be the first receiver with the Heisman or non-QB running back since I want to say Deion '97. What? No, wait, was it?
Deion Sanders?
No, not Deion. It was Charles Woodson.
He was defense. Charles Woodson was defense.
Yeah, that was '97, right?
Do you know where Truth is?
I want to say Deion. Or why don't you say Deion? I know.
So why would you say it?
Are you so though? I hate. Charles Woodson, David.
Yeah.
He was right, Christopher.
There he is.
Eddie Jordan. Eddie Jordan. He looks like the Rock.
No, he doesn't. The Rock has a muscle.
He's bald and has sunglasses. That's why he looks like the Rock.
Ah.
The Rock's brain has muscle.
91, Desmond Howard.
Is that who you like?
Well, that's how I remember him mainly because he won the Super Bowl MVP
Oh, wait, Michigan.
in Super Bowl 31 with the Packers.
No, it's bad.
What?
No, it's bad.
What's up?
I'm a Michigan fan.
All right.
But
But Desmond Howard, he won the MVP of the Super Bowl as a kick returner. He won the MVP as a kick returner.
Yeah, what's it called?
Yeah.
Wait, with who? The
Packers 31.
31.
31. It was Packers over Patriots.
You did that.
Oh god.
No, we got smoked. That.
And then it was then the Packers, they made the Super Bowl again the following year. They lost to the Broncos. The Broncos beat the Falcons, and then the
Me and
Rams.
my dad were just talking about this yesterday about the Broncos.
Well, my dad's a huge Broncos fan going back to the 60s.
So why? I don't get it. Like, why did you become a Ravens fan?
When I no, Justin Tucker wasn't drafted yet. I didn't really have a favorite football team. And then when I graduated college, I went to college down in Salisbury, Maryland. And down in Maryland, you were either a Redskins fan or a Ravens fan. And I was like, whatever. So then when I graduated college and my wife and I got engaged, she wanted to watch football with me. Which like get yourself a girl that wants to watch sports with you, you know? So she was like, well, she's like, I'd be more invested if we had a team to root for. And at that time, I was living in northern Maryland, and the radio, every time I drove to work, the radio always talked about the Ravens. And they had literally just drafted Joe Flacco. But he was a third-string quarterback.
Who? Do you know who it was?
First two, one was Troy Smith, former Heisman Trophy winner,
I know.
and the other was Trent Hilton. Yeah. But then they both got injured. And 2008. He got drafted the same year Matt Ryan got drafted.
That was the year the Phillies won the.
Yes.
I'm a Phillies.
Yeah.
It's my sports teams are weird. I'm a Phillies fan because I grew up in Lakewood, Blue Claws, so
Sure.
I got to see Howard and all them.
Nice.
And then the Patriots because my mom's been a Patriots fan all her life. But my dad was a Niners fan growing up.
I got you. Well, the 80s.
Yeah, he said that he didn't like a team, and he saw everyone in his family loved the Cowboys, who was the one team there beating them.
That's true.
The Niners, so he said that's how he.
Well, the Cowboys in the 80s, they were good in the beginning, and then they died near the end.
What were the Cowboys like unstoppable?
Hold on. I'll show you something. Check this out.
when they had Tom Landry. They messed up when they had Tom Landry.
Check this out. Hold on. All right, so check this out. This is the history of the Dallas Cowboys over the course of time, according to this guy's website, and their scoring. Here to here, they were unstoppable. This was during the 1970s. You can see right there. Hold on, how do I zoom back out now? Come on, you. Oh, yeah, you can see it along the bottom. My bad. You can see it along the bottom. So you can see during the 70s, and then in the late 80s, they went downhill. What ended up happening in the late 80s, they had the running back, Herschel Walker. Great running back. They traded him to the Minnesota Vikings for a ton of draft picks over the course of multiple years. That's when they drafted Troy Aikman. That's when they drafted Emmitt Smith.
Oh.
That's when they drafted, I can't remember the name of the wide receiver now.
So they had like a couple of rebuilding years?
Michael Irvin, thank you. Say again?
They had a couple of rebuilding years?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, in the late 80s. And then it was because of those draft picks that they got from the Minnesota Vikings that they won 3 out of 4 Super Bowls in the mid-90s.
Vikings are a sad
Yeah.
for them. I know it's funny though, because Falco first. I like it.
Yeah.
Remember the Eagles and Nick Foles like wax them?
So you said you're a Patriots fan. Let me see something here. Patriots. So you see every
More ups and downs.
well, the thing is,
What team is this?
it's the Patriots.
Tom Brady, Bill Belichick.
During the mid 80s, they were actually pretty decent.
Yeah.
And then they were kind of a joke in the early 90s.
They're huge.
And then they made the Super Bowl in the late 90s. And then they kind of joked out a little bit again. And then around here, right around here, literally, is probably that little extra little spike is when Tom Brady took over. That's when Tom Brady took over. Now, they won a Super Bowl. The next year, they didn't make the playoffs. Then they made it back and went back-to-back Super Bowls. This was their season where they were undefeated up until the Super Bowl.
Yes, sir.
And then these were their out-of-nowhere Super Bowl wins over here, and now here they are down here.
Tom Brady made Bill Belichick. Change my mind.
Okay, you don't know Bill Belichick, or Tom Brady, I guess. You never watched
You see him going, man, and he can whatever after why we show it. Tom Brady's gonna make
Oh, goodness.
Bill Belichick.
So name another team that you want to see.
Yeah,
The Jets?
Yeah, Tom Brady's the reason we had a winning season. Yeah. So look at our team this year with Cam Newton. He doesn't even throw the ball. All right?
Hold on.
Now, let me tell
So
you
Tom Brady made Bill Belichick.
that doesn't mean he made him. Oh my God! Did you? See
Oh, so here are the Jets.
Over defense.
Again, you can see their Super Bowl victory.
With Bill Belichick, defense
And
is
here.
huge.
How'd y'all lose it?
Oh, they were 10-1 at one point.
We lost the Giants. We lost 14-7.
There was their AFC Championship loss.
You couldn't stop it. Dude, he caught
There
it
they
his
are.
helmet. You couldn't stop that.
That's he caught it off his helmet. You couldn't stop. Like, how can you stop that? What? That was the dumbest comment I've heard.
Well, you know how you stop it?
Don't say something smart. Don't. No.
Okay, can I tell you something? Okay, you ready for this?
Rodney Harrison, yeah, he didn't have.
No. Patriots, Seahawks. You ready?
Are you talking about the Super Bowl?
Yes.
Okay.
Patriots, Seahawks. Now the Patriots ended up winning that game.
Now we prepared for that play.
Hold. I'm talking about before that play. Hold on.
I would call.
You
I
two-
watched the background of this Super Bowl
Patriots.
so many times.
No. I'm not talking about that.
Not like the all of that. Leading up to the Super Bowl game. Well, not-
You'll see what I'm talking about in a minute. Hold on.
It's called American Football. 2019
Richard Sherman.
Oh, you're talking about Jermaine Kersey. That's
33
what
yards.
he's talking about, Jermaine Kersey.
The ground.
Yeah, that's this lucky cat. Get out of here. Malcolm Butler played
No.
that.
You're telling me. How do you defend against a guy catching a ball on his helmet? Now hold on. Watch this.
Jermaine Kersey, like, no, he's not.
I missed it. Hold on. There it is. Hold on. Huh? Here you go. Here.
Look at how well he defended.
All right. Here's my point. You say, who's the guy that caught it on his helmet? David Tyree. You can't defend against a guy catching it on his helmet. My question is, when David Tyree caught it on his helmet, did he score a touchdown on that play?
No.
They could have stopped him afterwards.
Oh, you're right. 100%.
This catch would have gone down in NFL history, in Super Bowl history, as one of the greatest in history, like David Tyree, had the Seahawks scored.
You're right. So we could. I know what you're saying. We
Yeah.
could have erased that David Tyree catch.
Could have.
But Eli Manning did do his thing. Plexico Burris was a legend. Like, of course.
And didn't he shoot himself?
Yeah.
In the foot. Yeah.
Ruined his career.
Yeah. Anyway.
And then JPB.
JP is still a monster. He's still a monster.
Right now. Are you hitting that in?
No, I'm going after 30.
So my point being though is like
I respect the Giants at the end of the day.
my point being though is this. Especially with football, basketball, baseball, everything, everyone focuses on like the one play. But yes, that's all it takes. But it's what led up to that and what happened after that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, that's all I'm saying. Like for example, being a Ravens fan that I am, we played multiple AFC Championship games against the Steelers and lost. And then we played against the Patriots and lost. You know the one I'm talking about, where like the dude missed the field goal. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, no,
Heartbreaking.
see, I understand. I'm not like, there's so many kids in this school that like, oh, this team's better than this team, so this team has no shot. I realize it's any given week.
If you really want a miracle story, you should look up any footage you can on the 1985 Villanova basketball team. NCAA tournament.
I was gonna say, wasn't that the '85 Bears?
No, that was the 85 Bears. Villanova basketball team, college basketball team. They were like an 8 seed.
Yeah.
And they ran the table.
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And they won it all.
I love seeing like UConn.
Yeah.
You remember that? Kemba Walker.
I do. They were like a 7 or 8 seed, weren't they?
They were really low. I remember they weren't even supposed to be in it, and they started winning.
I think that was like 2011.
Yeah, 2011. That was awesome.
What? I'll look it up. Hold on.
Wait, what?
2011.
You don't think that's What about Adam
All right, here you go. Oh, no, Connecticut was a 3 seed during that thing.
Oh, they were, but no, they weren't. They were not doing good. Like,
I got you.
and then,
I can't find
they were annoying me with it. Because when they got off, he was like, "Holy, where's your foot?"
There you go. Villanova, 8 seed.
They beat Georgetown.
Yeah.
1 seed. They're 6. Wait, and it's 6.
That was the Patrick Ewing team.
Was that a buzzer beater?
No, I don't think so.
That's crazy though. 66-64.
Yeah. What are you guys doing?
Right.
No, I know. They have to.